Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. My name is Alden, and if you'd asked me a year ago whether I trusted my wife more than anyone on earth, I would have said yes without hesitation. She was Maribel. Bright, charming, and always the one who filled a room with laughter. People adored her, and I took quiet pride in being the man she called her husband. But somewhere along the way, her humor sharpened into something that didn't feel playful anymore. It felt like I was the punchline instead of the partner. Still, I kept brushing it off. She's just stressed. I'd tell myself. She doesn't mean it. That night, though, the night of her best friend's birthday party, something in me shifted so hard it felt like the floor under my life cracked open. The evening started normally enough. We arrived at Callista's house. She's Maribel's closest friend, the type who hugs everyone for too long and buys glittery candles for every occasion. The place was already loud, filled with coworkers, cousins, and people I barely recognized. I followed Maribel through the crowd, holding her coat, her drink, whatever she handed me without thinking. She floated from conversation to conversation, and I stood beside her like I always did, smiling when she smiled, laughing when she laughed, even when I didn't understand what was funny. It wasn't until about an hour into the party that things turned. I had stepped into the kitchen for some ice when I heard Maribel's voice drifting in from the dining room. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp. The kind of tone she used when she wanted the room's attention. "I swear," she said, half laughing, "I won't let him into my bed anymore." For a moment I froze. The clink of ice in the scoop felt embarrassingly loud. She didn't say my name, but she didn't need to. Everyone there knew she was talking about her husband, about me. A few people laughed, the kind of laugh people use when they're trying to act like they're in on a joke they don't understand. And then Callista chimed in, her voice high and syrupy. "Oh, honey," she said, "there's always space in my bed." The room erupted. Laughter, cackling, that uncomfortable chorus people make when they think they're witnessing humor instead of humiliation. My chest tightened the way it does when you fall in a dream. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I felt the ice melting in my hand, trickling down my fingers. Before I could step forward, before I could even react, Maribel suddenly backpedaled. "Oh my God, you guys," she said quickly, waving her hands. "It was a joke, just a joke." But she didn't say it out of guilt. She said it because the joke stopped being funny when someone else tried to step into the space she was using to embarrass me. Callista's offer shifted the spotlight, and Maribel didn't like losing the control of it. That's when she looked up and saw me standing there. Her face dropped, not out of shame but out of irritation. "Alden," she said, forcing a smile, "where have you been? You scared me." I didn't respond. I just walked past her, placed the bowl of ice on the counter, and stepped outside onto the balcony. The cold air felt like a relief against my skin. For a long moment, I just stood there, listening to the muffled laughter behind me, feeling the weight of something unspoken pressing down on my chest. She'd been making small jabs at me for months, little humiliations disguised as jokes. "He can't cook to save his life. He's helpless without me. He falls asleep like a grandpa." Things people laughed at, thinking she was just playful. But this was different. This was intimate, private. Something sacred turned into something cheap. And she did it without hesitation. A few minutes later, the balcony door slid open, and Maribel stepped out. Her cheeks were flushed from the noise and wine. "Why are you being dramatic?" she asked, arms crossed. I didn't look at her. "Because you embarrassed me." "Oh, please, you're sensitive tonight." It was harmless. Harmless. That word hit harder than the joke itself. "If it was harmless," I said quietly, "why did you backtrack the moment Callista said there was room in her bed?" Her mouth tightened. "Not guilt, defensiveness." "You always twist things," she said. "You always make me feel like the bad guy." There it was. The sentence she used whenever she didn't want to be held accountable. The worst part? A year ago I might have believed her. But now, standing there under the cold night sky, listening to the muffled music behind us. Something inside me clicked into place. Not anger, not even sadness. Just clarity, the quiet realization that this wasn't a one-time slip. This was who she'd become when eyes were on her. And I wasn't sure I recognized the woman in front of me anymore. I stepped back inside, but this time I didn't follow Maribel around like her shadow. Instead, I wandered into the quieter corner of the living room, where a few people I actually liked were talking. I kept my hands in my pockets and my head down, pretending to be interested in their conversation while my mind replayed every word from the balcony. Callista noticed me first, the way she always notices when something is off. She leaned in and whispered, "Are you okay?" I nodded, but I didn't feel okay. And I realized I hadn't felt okay for a while. For months, I'd let her jabs slide. For months, I had ignored the creeping shame I felt when she corrected me in front of her friends, when she subtly humiliated me to remind me of my place. And somehow, I had convinced myself it was all normal. That marriage was just like that. I wasn't stupid. I'd read the signs just like any man in a halfway functional relationship would. But I'd stayed quiet because I loved her, or because I thought I loved her. And love, I had told myself, required patience. The truth? Patience only goes so far when respect disappears. By the time Maribel came back, the energy had shifted in the room. I could see it in her eyes. An unease, a flicker of worry that hadn't been there before. She tried to joke her way past it. "Oh, don't be so sensitive," she said again. A little too loud, the words bouncing off the walls and into the ears of people who already knew the tension. I shook my head, quietly. "I'm not being sensitive," I said. "I'm paying attention, and I don't like what I see." Her face fell, a mixture of shock and frustration. I could see the calculations behind her eyes. How to spin it, how to get the room laughing at me again without realizing I wasn't playing along. But tonight, I wasn't playing. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of half-laughs, empty smiles, and strained conversation. I didn't reach for her hand, didn't follow her as she flitted from group to group, didn't respond to her playful nudges. Instead, I watched her. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved with all I had, and I realized how far apart we had drifted. By the time the party ended, I knew I had a choice. I could go home, pretend it didn't hurt, and continue pretending our marriage was strong. Or I could stop pretending. I drove us back in silence. Maribel tried small talk at first, a few questions about the party, but I only nodded. My thoughts were elsewhere, on every time she had dismissed me, on every moment she had subtly reminded me I wasn't enough. I kept thinking about the balcony, about her joke, about Callista's response. It wasn't about the joke. It was about the message behind it. The message that she could publicly humiliate me without consequence. That her friendships, her charm, her laughter, all carried more weight than my dignity. When we got home, I didn't argue. I didn't slam doors. I didn't yell. I simply walked past her and went to the bedroom. For the first time in months, I felt the weight of clarity settle on my chest. I knew that what I had been tolerating wasn't love, wasn't partnership. It was control disguised as humor, manipulation wrapped in laughter. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the walls, letting the silence wash over me. And then I said it out loud, even though she wasn't there yet. "I can't do this anymore." When Maribel walked in, her eyes widened. She opened her mouth, started to speak, and I held up my hand. "Don't. Just don't." She hesitated, searching my face for something. Anger, regret, maybe even fear. But I felt none of that. I only felt peace. Strange, quiet, bittersweet peace. "I loved you," I continued, voice low but steady. "I still care about you, but I can't stay in a marriage where my dignity doesn't matter, where my love is used as a joke." Her lips pressed together. I could see the fight in her, the instinct to twist, to manipulate, to claim victimhood. But I wasn't the audience anymore. I wasn't there to validate her narrative. I was stepping out of it. I packed a small bag with the things I needed, my laptop, a few clothes, my wallet. I didn't yell, I didn't slam the door. I simply walked out. And when I drove away, I didn't look back. The streetlights blurred past, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. A lightness, like air filling lungs that had been holding too long. A quiet, raw kind of freedom that doesn't come with applause or celebration. Just clarity. I called Callista the next day. We laughed, we talked, and for the first time, someone heard the truth without judgment or interruption. I realized that leaving wasn't a failure. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming the part of me that had been quieted for too long. Maribel? She's still in the house we shared, still laughing with friends, still making jokes. I don't know if she ever understood the weight of hers, or if she ever will. But that night, at that party, I learned that love doesn't demand sacrifice of self-respect. It asks for partnership, honesty, and dignity. And if those aren't there, sometimes the best thing you can do is step away. I haven't looked back, and I never will.